All right, people. Review of the week time. This is probably going to be one of the more fun. Well, they're all fun. They're always good. I actually was one of the videos I enjoy doing the most. I love doing these, no matter where I am in the world. But this one's interesting because we're going to preview. Feb 22nd card, and they be like this week previewing it. This day next week, I'll be sat right here, same location, because I'm home until the following Tuesday, and we're going to be reviewing the card, and it's just, yeah, it's one of the best cards, arguably of all time. But before we talk about that, we have to obviously talk about the fight that happened last night, or the card itself. I watched most of the fights on it. It was live on DAZN, as will the last Crescendo pay-per-view on February 22nd. Have a look there on screen. That will be live and exclusive on DAZN. Well, I'm sure it'll be exclusive in various countries, but in the UK it will have to share with some other platforms. But it will be on DAZN. You can purchase it, no subscription required. £19.99 for arguably one of the best cards in recent memories. There's not really no arguing about it. Have a look on screen. It lists the fight. Link will be in the description. Let's talk Jack Catterall versus Arnold Barboza. But before we do, let's talk about some of the other fights that happened. Now, I have to say, I haven't seen this fight yet. I switched on, I should really be saying, when Pat McCormick was fighting Robbie Davis Jr. I always liked Robbie Davis Jr., to be honest with you. He always came across as a stand-up guy, a real good guy. On his day, he could be a very, very decent, good fighter, decent domestic level fighter. He was down twice in round number 3. He was down again in the 5th. It was a compassionate stoppage from Anthony Crawler in the corner of Robbie Davis Jr. Pat McCormick, significantly better. He was significantly better, and I thought he looked particularly good. Pat McCormick, I like what I'm seeing so far. This was his 7th pro fight, 7th win. Demolition job, and it looked like he had plenty more gears to go through in this respective fight. It was apparent after the 5th round that Anthony Crawler was saying it in the corner that, look, I don't want to see you take this kind of punishment. Anthony Crawler's been there, seen it and done it, and he knows exactly what can go wrong. In boxing, I believe I think was it Anthony Crawler who did injure someone many years ago now in a fight, and he knows, former world champion, he knows too well what can happen. And after round 5, which was a torrid round for Robbie Davis Jr., Anthony Crawler correctly, and that's what you want. You want a corner like that. At the end of the day, the worst thing you can have in boxing is a brave corner, because it's those decisions that can actually help save a fighter. Because some fighters need to be safe for themselves. Not that that was the case with Robbie Davis Jr., but sometimes you have fighters, as pride come before a fall. They don't want to quit when they're clearly not going to win. They see it as a moral victory to go to 10, 12 rounds. But having a corner man to say, no, I don't care what you say, we're stopping it, that's what you need. They know your fighter, and Anthony Crawler definitely did that. I didn't see the Zelfa Barrett James Jazza Dickens fight. I couldn't believe it when I seen that Jazza Dickens won. I really couldn't. I wonder, did they have the scores listed? 90. Oh, so yeah, no, it was unanimous. It was 97-93. So it was that type of fight. So it was a fairly, 10-7, or sorry, 7-3 type fight. So it was a fairly comprehensive win for Jazza Dickens. Zelfa Barrett's a good fighter. He's not a bad fighter by no stretch of the imagination. And I did think he'd get through with Jazza Dickens. Peak for peak, I would say Jazza Dickens is a little bit better. And I say peak for peak because I thought Jazza Dickens was well past his peak now at this stage. And again, I've spoken about this before, but Jazza Dickens fought nearly 2 years ago. I'll tell you the fight it was actually. It was summertime. It was about July of 23. And it was when he fought that Hector Andreas Sosa. What's he done since then? Absolutely sweet FA. He's actually taken a loss in his last fight. But he fought him in, I think it was in Dubai. And this was one of the most vicious knockouts you will ever see. And Jazza Dickens was on the receiving end of it. It was devastating beyond belief. It really, truly was. It was a horrific knockout loss. And I looked at that and said, you know what, that's it. That's it. You can't, because he looked jaded against Kid Galahad. That's been nearly, 4 years? Yeah, nearly 4 years now. And that was 2 years after that beating he took against Kid Galahad. And I just thought, no, he's got nothing left in the tank. He didn't look like he'd anything left in the tank when he fought Kid Galahad. Boy, was I wrong. I really am. I don't know whether that's a damn indictment on Zelfa Barrett. I don't think it is. Or the fact that Jazza Dickens still has that much left in the tank. I remember Jazza Dickens when he fought Guillermo Rigondeaux. That was on Box Nation back in the day. And he got hit with a left hand in round number 2, I think it was. And he suffered that huge swelling on his face. I think it was a broken jaw. It was massive. It was crazy. He marches on, so more to come from Jazza Dickens. Reece Bellotti versus Michael Gomez Jr. Good fight as I thought it would be. I did think it would be a bit more competitive. You know, Reece Bellotti, I can't have any more praise for him because he really has. Well, he's shown the world that a loss is not the end of the world. Because I remember when he was fighting the likes of Dai Davis, Jason Cunningham. Remember Jason Cunningham? Jason Cunningham went in a great run. That win aged very well. Jason Cunningham's a good fighter. But I remember he was knocking everyone out. He was known as the Bomber, and I think he'd only had, one fight prior to his fight with Ryan Doyle in the York Hall back in 2018, that hadn't gone the distance, and he was knocking everyone out. He was looking really good and doing really good. He was very highly touted at the time by Matchroom and Sky. And he ran into Ryan Doyle. He got stopped in 5 rounds. It was a fairly comprehensive loss, and he was taken out in. It wasn't knocked out cold, but it was a good knockout to watch. Not good probably to take. And since then, you know, he went and he looked very gun shy. Lost to Ryan Walsh. Lost then 3 on the bounce, culminating in a loss to Raymond Ford. Actually lost to Jordan Gill on points actually in that fight as well. Jordan Gill's a fighter. I mean, he won that fight, but he really has fallen off the radar. And then he just started winning and winning and winning. And, you know, now he's British champion, Commonwealth title as well. You know, if you learn from these defeats, you can come back and do something. And a British and Commonwealth champion, people, that's nothing to turn your nose up at. Absolutely nothing. As far as I'm concerned, you win a British and Commonwealth title and, you know, you've done something in this sport. You've done more than most would. So credit to him. I'd like to maybe see Reece Bellotti challenge for an EBU title. I think he might have the beating of some of those guys in him. If that's all you get to European champion, again, I would say that's a very, very respectful and well done career, especially coming off the back of, you know, defeat, and he lost 3 on the spin and was stopped by Raymond Ford in one of the losses. So credit to him. Absolute credit to Reece Bellotti. Michael Gomez Jr., yeah, it was a particularly I thought it would be. I thought he'd do better than this, to be honest. I really did. And then we had the main event, Jack Catterall, Barboza Jr. Like I said in the post-fight review, I picked Jack Catterall to win. I didn't expect it would be compelling viewing. I didn't actually mind this fight too much, to be honest. It was an intriguing watch throughout. The rounds went by very, very quick. And for me, it was apparent what I was watching. I even tweeted on X that after about 8 rounds, I was like, am I wrong? Am I seeing this different? Am I wrong in having Barboza winning? And a lot of people were agreeing with me. And by the end of the fight, I felt Barboza did enough to win it. It was close. I had it 115-113 to Arnold Barboza Jr. I really, even though it was close, I really found it difficult to make a case for Jack Catterall, really, when you go back and look at it again, and I looked at clips of it again today. You know, Jack Catterall had success, but Barboza really offset him. He really offset him. When you are standoffing with Jack Catterall, he's not aggressive enough. He's not the most aggressive fighter, irrespective of who the opponent is, but when you have a fighter coming at him, and Josh Taylor, someone like that who likes that mid to close range, yeah, he'll have a field day with you. When you're giving him space, and he's a counter-puncher, Jack Catterall, that's what he is. But when you're looking to counter-punch with him, then it becomes a case of, okay, who's going to be more aggressive with their defense as well? You know, aggressive defense is probably the best way to say it. And Barboza was just better. It gave him different angles, and, you know, credit to him, the rightful winner. Will he get elevated? I can't see Teofimo Lopez wanting to go down that road of fighting him. Not that he'd be afraid or anything like that. I just think stylistically it might not suit him. He might look a bit unremarkable. And as well as that, I think he's looking for the big money fights. And with Ryan and Devin going to 147, I think that's where Teofimo Lopez is inevitably going to go. Let's do a preview of the... oh boy. We have February 22nd. We're doing a preview. I'm not going to give a prediction on all these fights. Now, Bradley Ray is still on the undercard. He's apparently fighting a guy called Konstantin Nina, I think is how you say his name. Now I seen him tweet that fight's off, but it's still listed on BoxRec. So BoxRec have a tendency, they can do that. So as far as I was aware, Bradley Stingray wasn't on this card, but he's still listed as being on it here. I'm just looking at this card in disbelief. Now, I would imagine this is probably the running order. And imagine Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith, if I said to someone, say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, all right, there's going to be a show, it's going to have Callum Smith, Joshua Buatsi on it. Where do you think it's going to be? You probably turn around and say, well, if it's not the main event, it's probably going to be on a pay-per-view, maybe a Joshua pay-per-view, Joshua against someone, or it's going to be something like that. So it's either going to be main event or co-main. No, it's kicking the show off. And you probably look and you'd say, what type of show is this? That's how good it is. Now, I'm not going to lie, like, I wouldn't mind kicking the show off. Because I'd say a lot of people, it's going to have a lot of concurrent viewers from very early on, I would imagine. And I actually would probably not mind necessarily kicking it off, because I think you might get you might get a good amount of viewers. I wouldn't necessarily mind it. But Buatsi Smith is a great fight. I would say out of all of the fights, because these are all pretty much, if not 50-50 close to, I would say this is the one where you'd kind of lean more to Buatsi than you would Smith. Excuse me. But I'm looking forward to that. Zhilei Zhang, Adja Kabayel. Kabayel's been on a good run of form. He's been doing some giant killing, quite literally, in Arsenbek Makhmudov. And if he beats Zhilei Zhang, there you go, another giant. Zhilei Zhang, when I was watching and doing the Joseph Parker 3 reasons why he loses to Dubois, you look at the punching power and you're like, he's not even trying. He's not actually even trying to put a lot of power into these shots where people are going flying. What the hell is going on with this guy's punching power? That's something special there. Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. I look forward to this fight. I think we're going to see... he's going to bring out the best in Shakur. And Floyd Schofield, he is... like, we are literally hearing nothing about him. He is stoic, I think, going into this fight. He is looking at Shakur thinking, I want to fight you, I want to beat you. I was there at the kickoff press conference in London, and he was mentioning that his promoter wasn't keen on this fight. His manager was saying not to take it. He's like, no, I have the beating of him. I'm going to have this fight. And I think that really does show the confidence and the self-belief that Floyd Schofield has. And I wouldn't rule him out. I'm not necessarily going to pick him, but I think he'll be very game in this fight. I really do. I think he'll be very game. Looking forward to that. I suspect that Shakur versus Floyd Schofield might actually be higher on the card. I know they have it listed here as below Virgil versus Israel Madrimov. I would imagine it's probably going to go on after Virgil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov, and that itself is a flippin' amazing fight. You know, a lot of people felt that Virgil Ortiz didn't look particularly good against Sergei Bohacek. He was dropped twice in that fight. Some people feel that he was lucky to get the nod. He has a chance to prove any doubters wrong by fighting Israel Madrimov. And Israel Madrimov, coming off the back of a very close loss, many people feel that he beat Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, people. Many people feel that he got the beating of Terence Crawford, the guy who just, steamrolled 147, Errol Spence, Sean Porter, etc. They believe that and is going to be fighting Canelo if all goes well this year. That guy, many people feel that he beat Terence Crawford. So that's going to be epic. I love Virgil Ortiz. He's one of my favourite fighters to watch. I style everything. I love watching him. It's incredible. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz. Please do not sleep on Carlos Adames. He is a very, very live opponent in here. I like what I'm seeing with Hamza Shiraz. He's massive at the weight. He's huge. But I think I do look at him and think, okay, you can get to this guy. You got to get past that long reach, but he can be gotten to, and I do wonder how sturdy those whiskers are. I won't forget the Bradley Skeet fight. He really should have been DQ'd in that fight, and he was losing that fight. He was rocked early on against Amo Williams, noticeably. So, early on, Adames can punch a bit. Let's see what Adames brings. He's a good fighter, Carlos Adames. He absolutely is. Dubois versus Joseph Parker. I think that's the fans' main event. And I don't mean any disrespect to Bivol Beterviev with that. I love the fight so much. I love the first fight. I'm going to love the second fight. But it really is the fans' main event, isn't it? Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. It really is. And obviously, Beterbiev Bivol. First fight was just phenomenal. It was brilliant. It just didn't have a knockdown, but I'm not really going to complain about that. I think the second fight is going to be just as good. It's going to be epic. I'm looking forward to it. And this is the card. I just cannot believe it. It's epic. It really is. It's an epic card. I can't wait for it. Let's have a little look-see on the Ring magazine, on their X account, and see, is there anything worth talking about. Let's see. Frank Warren believes Dillian Whyte versus Joe Joyce is a must-win for both. I agree. Neither man hide away, and there will be no place to hide away. I never like to overplay the consequences of defeat, but the loser will not be in a good spot. I completely, wholeheartedly agree. Me and Ade disagreed on who we think is going to win. He is siding with Dillian Whyte. I'm nailing my colours to the mast and I'm saying Joe Joyce. I may live to regret that, but I can't get that Ebenezer Tete performance out of my head. Ebenezer Tete, who will actually be facing Fraser Clark in his comeback fight. I'll talk about that now in a wee bit. That is the guy Dillian Whyte was in there with last. What would you rather? Like, lose to Derek Chisora, not look particularly good doing it, but at least know Chisora still has a bit left in the tank, or look horrible in victory? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you would rather win by any stretch of the imagination, by hook or by crook, but still horrible against Ebenezer Tete. How do you do that? How's that possible? You know? I mean, how actually do you look bad against Ebenezer Tete? You know, Alexander Usyk, he praised on Moses Itauma when asked who will succeed him as heavyweight king. Moses Itauma, I think, is a great fighter. He's young. He's 20 years old. I think Itauma has a big future, and I agree. I agree with Alexander Usyk. I agree with the champ. I think Moses Itauma has a phenomenal future ahead of him. I really do. I really, truly do. I think that he is going to be... Listen, he's not going to break Mike Tyson's record. We can kind of fairly categorically say that now. And if he fights Kubrat Pulev for a regular title and wins, and they use that, I'm not going to count that, quite frankly. You know, I'm not. But he will be the youngest British heavyweight champion. I've no doubt about that. It's Herbie Hyde now, who I believe was 22 years old, thereabouts. He'll beat that record at the very least. He'll beat that, I reckon. Turki Al-Sheikh, position on the idea of 15 rounds. No, I don't support this idea in any way. This is bad for a fighter's health, and I would never be in favour of a fight going back to 15 rounds. In my opinion, even a 12-round fight could be too much for a fighter's health, but 15 rounds is out of the question. A 15-round fight should never be allowed to happen. This comes after, I believe it was the WBA president, Gilberto Mendoza, saying that they would be open to trial in 15-round fights, and I agree with Turki Al-Sheikh. Listen, I wasn't born when the last 15-round fight happened, that I'm aware of anyway. I believe one of the last would have been Mike Tyson versus Tyrell Biggs in the late 80s. Didn't go anywhere near 15 rounds. Listen, 15-rounders were a direct result, I believe, of Ray Boom Boom Mancini stopping Dooku Kim. I think it was the 14th round. And Dooku Kim, who was a Korean fighter, subsequently dying after. It stuck with Mancini as well, and I'm a big Ray Boom Boom Mancini fan. He's phenomenal. I've never met him in person, but I've been to the York Hall and seen him there. It was incredible. A lot of time for Ray Mancini, tremendous fighter. You put fighters at more of a risk if it goes past 12. You definitely do. More risk of getting injured, dehydration, etc. And this coming after a week or so removed, where John Cooney was, tragically lost his life, a young fighter. I think 12 rounds is perfect. I think 36 minutes is perfect. I don't think it should go under that. I think 12 rounds is the sweet spot. I don't think we should go into 15 rounds. I think that boxing is dangerous. There's nothing you can do to make boxing safe. Boxing is a dangerous sport. It'll always be dangerous. We hate to say it, but there's always going to be fatalities. We try and minimize it, but it's always going to be there. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the game. There's no point trying to defend it. But as I said, you try and minimize it. Going back to 15 rounds, I mean, you're just asking for trouble. How many times have we seen a fighter after a 12-rounder leave the ring, sometimes on their own accord, and then we've heard that they've ended up in hospital, they've ended up with, a potential bleed in the brain, this, that, and the other. And a lot of the time, well, I'd say in the majority of times I've heard that the fighters have made a recovery. Some of them unfortunately haven't, like Edward Goodneck, who we don't hear much about, but very bad way. If they can make a recovery after 12 rounds, that extra 9 minutes, and God forbid, Edward Goodneck, when he fought George Groves, that was a 12 rounder. He went 12 rounds. He took a horrendous beating. I remember it very well. And I thought they should have stopped the fight after about 8 or 9 rounds. Now, had that been a 15 rounder and they let it go on, that was on Channel 5. We could have seen a fatality on live TV. I don't want to see that, quite frankly. And I think that could potentially happen with 15 rounders. I really do. I hope we don't see it. I really, truly hope we don't see it. So 15 rounds, they've had their time, and I don't think they need to come back. I don't think they need to come back, quite frankly. Stick a fork in that. It's been done. Keyshawn Davis, I forgot to say, he actually won on Friday, knocked out Dennis Batchek in 4 rounds. Keyshawn Davis is a tremendous talent. I enjoy watching Keyshawn Davis. I forgot to actually, I was like, there was a card on Friday. I was like, oh, yep, forgot about that one. No, Keyshawn Davis, tremendous talent. Francis Ngannou was eyeing a return to the ring with Deontay Wilder as a potential opponent. It seems that... I'll talk about that now in a sec. It seems as though, shock horror, that BLK, I'm amazed that they probably don't seem to have the finance to put on Wilder versus Harper. Whoever would have thought that? Jesus Christ, I mean, that is the shock of the century. It really is. Whoever would have thought that? So now Wilder needs a new dance partner. He needs a fight. Him against Ngannou would sell. It would. It's a winnable fight for Wilder. It's actually a winnable fight at this stage for Ngannou, to be honest with you. On top of what I was saying about Keyshawn Davis, Jared Anderson fought on the undercard. And I've already done a video on it. I'm not going to go on and into a tangent and go into great lengths on it, but big improvements needed. I'm not going to write him off. He's 25 years old, for God's sakes. He can learn, but it's looking to me like his heart isn't in it. And if your heart's not in a sport like boxing, don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's too dangerous a sport to not have your heart in it. You need to be switched on. You need to be on it. And Jared Anderson, to me, at this stage, doesn't look like he is, quite frankly. And if that's the case, I had high hopes for him. I did. And he may still do something, but oh boy, he looked bad on Friday night. He looked very bad on Friday night. He really, truly did. He absolutely, really, truly did. Is there an announcement on Ring Magazine about Ben Whittaker? That's where I get most of my news from. And if I don't see... there we go. So Ben Whittaker will rematch Liam Cameron on April the 20th in Birmingham. It's actually not a bad little card. It's also going to have Fraser Clark versus Ebenezer Tete. This is Fraser Clark. We're going to need to see how Fraser Clark looks in this fight, because, that was a devastating knockout defeat at the hands of Fabio Wadley. Fabio Wadley is looking very good. Still waiting to hear what he's going to be doing for his next fight. But Cameron versus Whittaker. And Ben Whittaker now apparently is being trained by Andy Lee. So he's left Sugar Hill to go to Andy Lee. Well, Andy Lee is based in Dublin, in Monkstown. His gym is in Ballybrack, but he's based, I think, in Monkstown in South Dublin. They're not too far. South Dublin is lovely, by the way. But I'm from the north side. We've got more character up here. But South Dublin is much nicer. I'm not going to lie, it is. It just is. So he'll like it there. He definitely will. And Andy Lee, I think, is a very, very good trainer. He will teach the similar Kronk style, you would imagine, or he has a very good understanding of it. So what he was learning with Sugar Hill Stewart, he'll probably be learning similar under Andy Lee, closer to home. I think geographically, maybe it wasn't suiting Ben Whittaker. Well, Andy Lee is only in Dublin. I mean, like, if I wanted to tomorrow, I could go to London in an hour. It's an hour flight to London City or Heathrow, whatever one you fancy. So it's a lot easier than America. I think he's based in Detroit, so yeah, a good long trip away. Detroit, Michigan, good long trip away to the northern part of America is where Michigan is, where the state of Michigan is. It's on the border, isn't it, with Canada? Digressing, but yeah, that fight is announced for April in Birmingham. Ben Whittaker has a lot to prove. Liam Cameron's going into this fight with a lot of confidence. Got Frank Warren backing him now, so it's going to be an interesting one. It really will. It really will. In terms of everything else, I think that's pretty much the news. So I will leave it there. As always, people, I greatly appreciate you locking in. I hope you have a great week. We will I try and get a live in maybe tomorrow, as in Monday, by the time this goes up. Maybe Tuesday, one or the other, but we will get some lives in this week. Have no fear. I can't wait for the fight card on Saturday night. As you can tell, I'm buzzing. We'll be doing a watch along, of course. Lots of previews, lots of prediction videos coming up this week. It's going to be a busy week for everyone involved. I've got me and Ade, we have our show either Monday or Tuesday. It's going to be uploaded. Ade told me he's going to upload either Monday or Tuesday. And it's a Ring magazine, or not Ring, it's a Riyadh season special. So it's just going to be us talking over the fight. We may have forgotten about Ortiz Madrimov. That's one we did kind of forget about. But the rest of them we talk about. So look forward for that. It's going to be good. It's good viewing. It's always good viewing at ANG, man. It's always good viewing. People, until next time, I will chat to you. Have a great day. Have a great week. Peace.